Hello and welcome. I'm really delighted to be sharing with you on this summit, and I'm grateful for the invitation to be here with you. So, I'll be speaking a bit about my own journey and what inspired the creation of Soma Journeys, and touching on some of the key practices and teachings that have helped me along the way in navigating life. And these practices have helped a lot. I'll conclude the talk with about a 35-minute yoga nidra practice, and I'll go into a little bit more about what yoga nidra is. And by doing the practice and embodying these practices rather than talking about them too much, we'll really have the opportunity to immerse in their power and potential. So first, I'd like to share a little bit about myself. I was born in Canada, raised in Switzerland. My early schooling was very multicultural. I lived between rural and urban settings. I grew up bilingual and have ever since been a global citizen. In fact, I sit and share with you now on an island in Thailand. So I've been very much living a nomadic life for the past 15 or so years. And I spend a lot of my time in Southeast Asia, North and South America, and Europe. So after I graduated with a Bachelor of Social Work, I went on to work for several years as a crisis counselor in women's services in Toronto, Canada. In that line of work, there was a great need for self-care. So I took up practicing yoga, and I began studies in holistic health. And this included a certification in aromatherapy, in reflexology, in massage, and other related modalities. I then planned a trip to Bali to do a yoga teacher training, and my life took quite a radical shift upon embarking on this particular trip. About a week into the training, the Bali bombs occurred. And this really triggered an internal inquiry and journey which awakened a deeper investigation of the yogic path, and I have been committed to it ever since, studying, teaching, researching, mentoring with teachers around the world. I got really interested and inspired in seeing correlations between yogic and nature-based spiritual teachings, largely rooted in indigenous wisdom, and just time and again points to our deep interconnection, which really is the essence of yoga. So then 12 years ago, rather serendipitously, my partner Troy McFadden and I founded our yoga school called the School of Sacred Arts. And it was founded with the intention to weave together different wisdom traditions in an educational setting and to take these teachings into the contemporary world, helping others recognize their unique gifts and potential, and celebrating diversity and the multiplicity of how life expresses itself. Our teacher trainings have primarily been operating at the Yoga Barn in Bali, but we've offered them in Japan, Malaysia, Hawaii, Canada, and Peru. So as life would have it, we're constantly deepening into these teachings and practices, and there's always an evolution occurring. And lately, we've been moving forward in the direction of our own personal passions. So for Troy, it's been mindfulness coaching with his Wisdom Warrior coaching. And I've created Soma Journeys with a focus on soulful courses, retreats, workshops, all with an underlying spirit of paying it forward and giving back. And this is very much rooted in my social work background. My focus tends to be in weaving together nature-based spirituality, which is rooted in the essence that ancient yogis and sages watched and learned from the cycles and rhythms of nature. And this includes maps that we see across many cultures in the form of, one might call it a sacred compass, or in North and South America known as a medicine wheel. As an aspect of nature-based spirituality, I've also been working with plant medicines in a variety of forms for over 2 decades, ranging from Ayurvedic and other cleansing practices to the aromatherapy that I studied, vision quests in the wilderness, to working and immersing myself with entheogenic master plant teachers in South America, which include ayahuasca and San Pedro. Rooted in the yogic teachings, I'm also deeply passionate and amazed at the power of yoga nidra, which is a unique form of meditation, and I'll go into that in a bit more depth shortly. So allow me to provide a bit of more context of the practices and teachings that deeply inspire me and what I love to share. When we begin to attune to the natural cycles and rhythms of life, when we recognize that there are ups and downs, times when the energy is expansive and times when it contracts, times when the energy is stimulating and times when it's quieting and inward moving and everything in between, when we can attune and listen and respond to these natural movements, we can better align ourselves to both the inner and outer energetic movements and influences and recognize when we're in flow or not. And this is where we might look to a map in the form of a sacred compass or medicine wheel. And one can find this sort of map across many cultures, including variations of the Native American medicine wheels, the Celtic calendar, right through to traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda that also maps life cycles and energetic processes or phases. And all of these are rooted in the close relationship to and watching and responding to nature and recognizing nature as teacher. When we recognize these natural cycles, we move with them rather than against them. We're able to give our minds and bodies a chance to rest and regenerate at their own rhythm, or take action according to the natural impetus rather than what our conditioned minds might dictate. So conditioning occurs through our socialization, which right from the get-go includes our upbringing in our families, our schooling and broader education, our culture, our gender, our ethnicity, our sexuality, and so on. All of these things heavily influence how we treat ourselves and each other, how we see and engage in the world and with ourselves. My understanding is that our conditioned mind is just a small part of our potential. And if not fully understood or put in its proper place, then it can take control and dominate what to me is a far vaster intelligence that is within us, but gets forgotten or overridden or simply ignored. So the drive of our modern world very much goes against living in alignment with these natural cycles. And this leads to big imbalances, as we clearly see in the world today. High levels of stress, and this is all rooted in an emphasis or a value placed on getting things done, the more bigger, better. It's more the doing and thinking mode that is on hyperdrive all the time, which becomes unsustainable and in turn leads to imbalances and disease, dis-ease of our bodies, our minds, and our environments. So when we begin to remember and allow and value the feeling and being side of our nature, we have an opportunity to discover the magical undercurrents of life. When we turn attention towards the wisdom of nature and her natural cyclical patterns, we can align ourselves with her wisdom. Her wisdom becomes our own innate wisdom, for they are one and the same. And by doing so, we also come to respect and honor our own inner and outer ecosystems. And this is reflected in relationship to ourselves, other humans, the non-human world, and this planet. It's all connected, and we recognize the yoga of it all. Think about it. Our Earth was birthed 4 billion years ago. There's this vast, incomprehensible intelligence of Mother Nature, of Gaia, of Pachamama. And as humans, our little blip of emergence on this planet, how can we possibly think we know anything? So I choose to turn my attention to this wisdom that she shows us in every moment. We just need to be open and receptive. And how we can help ourselves be open and receptive is through some of the practices I feel so inspired and informed by. So a good place to start is to recognize and observe the basic movement pattern of energy, which is expansion and contraction. And when we see this in a continuous movement, it creates cycles and patterns. And by observing these basic energy movements, cycles and rhythms we can start to work with more consciously. We begin to see that everything has a birth, a growth, a peak or plateau, a dissolving, and a death. And then the cycle begins anew. Every phenomena in known existence follows this pattern, this cycle, this rhythm. Be it a actual life form like a tree, or a bacteria, an entire ecosystem, a galaxy, or a thought, or an emotion, and so on. So many functions in the body occur in cycles with intervals ranging from minutes to hours to daily to monthly. And these cycles are referred to as ultradian, circadian, infradian. So just a few examples. We can look to our breath. The in and out flow of each breath we can observe different qualities. We can just observe the qualities of the in-breath and how it differs from the out-breath. There's a giving and a receiving quality. There's an arising and dissolving, a birth and a death characteristic, just in the breath alone. There's different energetic qualities of stimulating and calming. We can see other cycles. If we stay with the nose, the breath, there are cycles that move from one nostril to the other. You'll notice if you test each nostril, one will feel a little bit more open than the other. So this is another cycle that alternates every 90 to 120 minutes. We can also look at sleep cycles that also move us through different phases of sleep, which alternate or change every 90 to 120 minutes, happen in intervals. These kinds of things, especially the breath, working deeply with it, the yogis harnessed this kind of knowledge and use these qualities profoundly with the development of pranayama and asana practices. We can look to other rhythms like the circadian rhythm that occurs within a 24-hour cycle. Just the energy of the day and the night carry quite differing qualities. We have infradian cycles which are more longer than 24 hours, which we could look at, for example, moon cycles, the lunar cycles. This marks our monthly cycles. And so we see this outside outside of ourselves, and we can also track this in a woman's body through the menstrual cycle. So there are other cycles that we can observe out in nature. There are seasonal changes depending where you are on the planet, but some have very pronounced seasonal transitions, and some places will have less pronounced seasonal transitions like the tropics. But nevertheless, we still see cycles that occur. There are breeding cycles in nature, tidal rhythms of the seas. So these are just a few examples of the cycles and rhythms that we can observe both within ourselves and outside of ourselves. So being able to align ourselves with these rhythms and cycles not only offers our minds and bodies an opportunity to function within their own wisdom, we start to recognize and follow when we're moving outward with our energy, more the doing side of our nature, and when to move inward, more the being side of our nature. So we can give ourselves the opportunity to maximize and ride with high energy times effortlessly, and then quiet down when the energy subsides. And this gives us a chance to listen deeply, to rest, to recuperate, to rejuvenate. And this in turn is not only deeply valuable in and of itself, but it nourishes and feeds us for those times when the energy picks up again and we're required to be moving more outward. So we learn to stop trying and pushing against the grain so much. We become wiser in recognizing when we need to meet something with a lot of energy, or when it's time to surrender to just what's unfolding. Because our world tends to value the more driven, outgoing, stimulating side of our nature, I've become really interested in those downtimes where energy moves inward, and have become intrigued with how powerful and potent that whole phase can be. So this leads me to now speak about the practice of Yoga Nidra. It harnesses this down phase profoundly, bringing Nidra Shakti, the power of rest, more to the forefront. It's here in the beingness where we truly reconnect and align to and from Source. When we're too much in doing mode, we get caught up in lots of distraction. We get over-identified with thoughts, emotions, our stories, our beliefs, and we easily lose ourselves and forget that we're connected to a much vaster intelligence, and we could call that Source. It's when we appear to be separate from Source, when we appear to be separate from the infinite field, it's then that we feel disconnected, and it's then that we can't access its full power and potential. So when we connect and align to Source, we have available to us a field of infinite potentiality. It's when we're connected to that which allows us to then access abundance, and manifestation can freely flow from it. So we have some tools available to us, like meditation, which is one of the key doorways to allowing us to slow down and allow us to align to Source and to remember that connection to the infinite. When we work from that place with intention, we can harness pure potential and power that not only provides us with a profound connection to others, but it connects us to our fullest self-expression from a natural, uncontrived place, our Source. And from here, we can fully be ourselves. What a gift. So when we're in flow and deeply aligned, then a remembering occurs that indeed we're not small, separate selves, but rather beautiful expressions of life and Source. And we see every other being that way too. So it's my experience that when we're open and receptive and feeling connected, life is always supporting and rooting for you. So a bit more about Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra, or yogic sleep, implies that there is a conscious awareness even as one shifts through varying states of consciousness. It's the sleep of the yogi. It's a powerful practice that brings us back into alignment with our soul's deepest, heartfelt desire, as well as in alignment with Source itself. Both are one and the same. It's a unique practice that not only brings us home to ourselves, but it profoundly connects us with the power to manifest our potential. The beauty and magic of it all is that it happens from a non-doing place. There are different methods and schools for Yoga Nidra, and I've studied with several of the main ones, namely with Richard Miller, the I Rest method, I Am Yoga Nidra, Amrit method with Kamini Desai, and Total Yoga Nidra with Nirlipta and Uma Dinsmore Tuli. I'm deeply grateful to these teachers for guiding me deeply into this practice and understanding the underlying method with a lot more depth. One of the metaphors used to describe the Yoga Nidra practice is it's like being guided into the landscape that is the consciousness of Yoga Nidra, but that different methods and schools are like tour buses moving through that landscape, each with their own different emphasis and focus, but each in their own way, and without a doubt leading into deep inner spaces. So our Yoga Nidra practice, which can be done from a relaxed position, excuse me, in Shavasana, we are guided through various states of consciousness. And these states of consciousness can be measured through the changing brainwave states. And we're guided through the different layers of the body, which in yogic terms are called the koshas. These layers of the body include the physical, the energetic, the emotional, the mental, the intuitive layers of our being, and guided right back to land in connection with Source. And from that place of connection to Source, we use the power of intention, or in yogic terms, the sankalpa. And the sankalpa aligns us with our deepest heartfelt mission. Our sankalpa arises from a way of being that is born of the heart. So it's already fully aligned with Source, heart, soul. A sankalpa is built on the simple but profound premise that wherever you direct your attention, energy flows. In other words, what you focus on grows stronger, and what you withdraw your energy from gets weaker. We need not even really pay much attention to the things that aren't working in our lives, to the patterns that are counterproductive, but rather we can imagine and feel into what we want to see blossom forth in our lives. And just by bringing attention to that, we're already working wonders. So in doing that, we're attuning ourselves to an energy field that supports our heartfelt endeavors. So how would we formulate a sankalpa? Well, we can make use of words in the form of a statement that is concise, stated in positive terms, in the present tense, and it's about me, and it resonates with me deeply. A sankalpa, when used as a primary intention, can be like your life's mission statement. Life's mission statement. If that feels too daunting to figure out in the moment, then there are also fun ways to touch in with it. We can also use the sankalpa for secondary intentions. And this implies shorter-term intentions that might change over time as you witness changes occurring in your life. And again, there are fun ways to really explore getting in touch with both your primary and secondary intentions. But to do that, you'll just have to join me in person for those deeper explorations. For now, I encourage you to just play with the ideas of what an intention might look like for you. And don't worry too much if you don't come up with anything right now. The beauty of the Yoga Nidra practice is that you can simply allow for and hold an open, receptive space that can bring an attunement with your deeper intuitive wisdom. So as we sink into deep relaxation in a Yoga Nidra practice, we give the body an opportunity to deeply unwind, and we support the brain to process and integrate all our experiences and heal itself. Research is showing that it's a very effective tool for treating trauma, stress, anxiety, depression, insomnia on quite profound levels. So really, it's a panacea for the times we're living in. I'm fascinated with the notion that deep inner shifts occur from altered states of consciousness when we're in deeper brainwave states. From there, new ideas, new inspiration, and new knowledge comes through. New paradigms can be birthed from these deeper states. That's what I've been recognizing in all the practices I work with, be it meditation, yoga, plant medicine work. And what gives me real hope is that these deeper places we can tap into, we can start to tap heartful solutions and create soul-centered paradigms that offer us inspirational ways to meet the profound challenges of our times. So, without further ado, I'd like to guide you through a yoga nidra that I created with the theme of this summit in mind. So this is a yoga nidra for deep self-care, personal empowerment, and manifestation.